When she called me sir, the community center's art room buzzed with anticipation as participants gathered for the evening class. Among them was Dr. Thomas Whitaker, a recently retired philosophy professor known for his stoic demeanor and structured life. He had enrolled in the class seeking a new hobby to fill the void left by academia. His once meticulously planned days were now marked by long silences, morning coffee brewed too early, and an aching quiet that academia once filled with purpose. As he settled into his seat, a vibrant young woman with colorful tattoos and a confident stride entered the room. Her name was Lila, a local tattoo artist known for her expressive designs and free-spirited nature. She took the seat next to Thomas, offering a playful smile. "Evening, sir," she greeted, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Thomas raised an eyebrow, slightly taken aback by the salutation. "Sir, that's quite formal," he responded. "Well, you have that distinguished look about you," Lila teased, "like someone who keeps a fountain pen in his jacket just in case inspiration strikes." Their conversation was interrupted as the instructor began the session, but the spark between them had been ignited. Throughout the class, Thomas found himself distracted by her laughter, the slight scent of lavender and ink that clung to her skin, the way her fingers danced across the paper with reckless freedom. In contrast, his own strokes were careful, practiced, and exact. He watched as Lila sketched a surreal image of a fox coiled around a human heart. "Your lines are very deliberate," she said, peeking over his shoulder. "I prefer clarity," he replied. "Precision has always been my comfort." "Sometimes clarity is overrated," she said with a wink. "You ever try drawing without thinking, letting your hands go rogue?" That night, Thomas lingered longer than usual, cleaning his brushes with meticulous care while Lila packed up. They left the building together, their conversation drifting from art to philosophy to music to tattoos and eventually to nothing, the comfortable kind of silence that only happens when something more is about to begin. As they stood by her motorcycle under the sodium lights of the parking lot, Lila straddled it like a queen on her throne and pulled on her helmet. She looked at him over her shoulder. "You ever ride one of these, sir?" "Not since I was 20, he said. "Want to remember how?" she asked. He hesitated. "You're inviting me on your bike?" "I'm inviting you to stop living like you're already dead. Hop on." He did. And for the first time in decades, wind screamed past his ears while he held tight to something terrifyingly alive. Over the next few weeks, Thomas and Lila continued to attend the art class, their interactions growing more frequent and familiar. Lila's playful nature challenged Thomas's structured worldview, introducing spontaneity into his routine. She often arrived with a new tattoo peeking out from beneath her clothes, each telling a story he found himself yearning to hear. One evening, as they worked on a still life sketch, Lila leaned over to observe Thomas's drawing. "You're quite good, sir," she remarked, using the term again with that same teasing lilt that stirred something unspoken inside him. Thomas chuckled, masking the twinge of warmth he felt. "I've always believed in precision and discipline. Sometimes letting go leads to the most beautiful creations," Lila replied, gesturing to her own chaotic but captivating piece. After class, they went for drinks at a local bar. Lila ordered something fruity and unpronounceable. Thomas stuck with bourbon. As the night wore on, their conversations grew more personal. Lila spoke of her childhood, raised by a single mother who painted murals in abandoned buildings. She shared stories of heartbreaks, wild road trips, and drunken tattoo requests from friends. He told her about his decades in academia, the students who challenged him, the wife who left, the years that slipped past unnoticed. She listened with an intensity that unnerved him, like she was reading between the lines. "Do you ever regret not doing something wild?" she asked. I regret not doing a lot of things, he admitted. That night, as they stood outside under a flickering street lamp, Lila leaned in closer, her breath warm. Her lips nearly brushed his ear as she whispered, "You don't have to be so careful with me." He swallowed hard, his heart pounding in a way he hadn't felt in years. "You don't know what you're playing with," he said. "Don't I?" she replied, turning away with a mischievous smile. As she walked off into the night, Thomas realized he hadn't wanted to say goodbye. The following week, she didn't show up to class. He found himself unreasonably irritated by her absence. But then, on the third day, she was back, and she invited him to her studio. The tattoo parlor was intimate and moody, filled with the low hum of a guitar solo and the scent of antiseptic and clove cigarettes. He sat stiffly on a leather couch as she rolled up her sleeve to reveal a fresh tattoo of a koi swimming upstream. "Ever wonder what it's like?" she asked, her voice low. "To get a tattoo," she nodded. "To surrender. To be still while someone writes a story into your skin." She took a needle and ink and gently placed the cool metal against his inner wrist without starting it. The contact made him flinch, not from pain, but from the intimacy of it. "You have the hands of someone who's never broken a rule in his life," she murmured. Thomas met her gaze. "Maybe I just need the right reason." She didn't press him to go further that night. Instead, she reached out and ran her fingers over his pulse. A silent promise, a dare. He left with his heart thudding, his wrist tingling, and the unmistakable feeling that his life was beginning again. After that night in her studio, something shifted. Thomas returned to the community center art class, but the work felt different now, less rigid, more alive. Lila was in his head, her touch still etched into his skin. She began dropping by his home. It started with a book she thought he should read, then a lunch delivery, uninvited but welcome. Then entire evenings curled on his couch in socks and one of his old button-downs discussing Camus and Radiohead in the same breath. One evening, as they shared a bottle of red wine and debated absurdism, Lila put her glass down and crawled into his lap. "You think too much," she murmured, kissing the corner of his mouth. "And you don't think enough," he said, but it lacked resistance. Her lips moved down his neck. "Then we're perfect." He let himself go. Her body moved against his like music, instinctive and unashamed. It wasn't the act of a man reclaiming youth, it was something else. Acceptance. Discovery. Later, when they lay tangled in each other and the glow of streetlights filtered through his window blinds, he whispered, "Are we pretending this isn't complicated?" "We're not pretending anything," she said. "But we're also not apologizing for feeling alive." He nodded, silently wondering how long a moment like this could last before the world crept in. Spring deepened. The mural project, once a shared dream between Thomas and Lila, began to take shape in the community center's courtyard. They painted side by side, Thomas providing the architecture of story, Lila flooding it with life. Passers-by watched as a celestial stag emerged from fire. A winged woman mourned a crumbling city, and abstract vines stitched it all together. But behind the blooming colors, cracks were forming. Lila noticed it first, the way Thomas flinched when she reached for his hand in public, how he hesitated when she posted photos of them painting together on social media, the growing silence whenever someone asked, "How did you two meet?" One evening, after a long day of painting, she leaned against his car and crossed her arms. "You still haven't told your friends about me, have you?" Thomas sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's not that simple." "It is," she said quietly. "You either see me or you don't." He looked at her then, really looked, her hair pinned messily beneath a paint-smeared bandana, the tattoo of a raven peeking from beneath her collar. He saw the curve of her lip, uncertain for the first time in weeks. "I do see you, Lila." Then why do you act like you're waiting for this to break? He didn't have an answer, not one that would sound noble or brave, only the echo of years spent keeping order, guarding pride, fearing embarrassment. He kissed her forehead, and that night they lay together in silence, her hand resting on his chest, his eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting the spaces between. It was Lila who brought up the invitation. A letter arrived, cream-colored and heavy with university insignia. An offer to guest lecture in Vienna for a semester. Philosophy, art history, cultural theory, prestige and nostalgia all rolled into one. She found it on his kitchen counter. You weren't going to tell me. I hadn't decided, but you were thinking of going. Thomas looked at her, caught between two lives. I thought it might be a kind of closure. Lila laughed, not unkindly, but with disbelief. Closure? Or an escape? He reached for her, but she stepped back. Don't, she said. Don't touch me like that unless you're willing to stay and be seen. He didn't fight her. Perhaps that hurt most. The night before he left, they didn't speak. She came over, curled beside him in bed, and they made love with a quiet desperation, as if trying to stitch time back together with skin. In the morning, she was gone before the sun rose. Months passed. Vienna was beautiful, intellectual, and cold. Thomas taught lectures that were well received. He walked streets lined with history and dined with old colleagues who hadn't asked if he was lonely. He didn't post pictures. He didn't write Lila. And then, on a rainy Thursday, he returned. The mural was faded, but still there. A child traced the painted stag with his finger as Thomas approached. The boy looked up at him and smiled. Inside the community center, a new art class was underway, and in the back, watching from the doorway, was Lila. Her hair longer, her eyes familiar. She didn't speak at first. Neither did he. Then quietly she said, I wondered if you'd ever stop running. I didn't run, he replied. I circled back. To finish what I started. Lila stepped closer. She brushed her fingers against his wrist, where months ago she had imagined tattooing something permanent. Still want to try it? She asked. He nodded. And that evening, in the quiet of her studio, she inked a small, simple mark above his pulse, a quill wrapped in ivy, a symbol of stories still being written. When it was done, she smiled and whispered, You still flinch, sir. He looked into her eyes, not from fear, from remembering. And finally she kissed him, not as a beginning, not as an ending, but as the breath between.